Great. So thank you for joining. This is the first, I say, hopefully more kind of future kind of client events. Um, and the idea is, I had an idea about creating a community, and I'll come to that at the end. This plan, this idea I have about creating more of a community. And this is one step towards that, doing some events where people come together, continue to learn and grow together. And we're going to go through this evening looking at the subject of goals. Are goals good? Are they bad? The psychology around creating what you want in your life. And the idea is that you can create more what you want in 2025. So the idea of this evening is to help you set up 2025 to be a great year. And as I was planning this session, I have got some notes to keep me on track. Otherwise, I'll just wander off and keep talking for hours. Got some loose notes, but it's interesting how it doesn't seem like a kind of linear subject. It's quite enmeshed with about goals. Are they good? Are they bad? The pros and cons. But we're going to go through this. A bit more conversation. So say chip in any questions, any points, chip in the chat, and I'll pick those up. So it's going to be more of a conversation. And most of you know this because I've said this many times, and how to listen. So listening to this, don't try and understand what I'm saying. Just enjoy it like some background music, but notice what it evokes within you. Because I'm not talking to your conscious, logical mind. I'm talking to your heart, your soul, your unconscious mind. So notice what my words evoke within you. And maybe just something, one phrase or something jumps out. And perhaps that's the thing you needed to hear this evening. And you're here for a purpose. And just to get things going, just get you tuned in and get into gear. So it's about goals and creating what you want and making 2025 a really great year. If there was something you want to get from this evening, in intent and in purpose, something you want to get from this evening, just pop it in the chat. I'd love to see that. So it's going to be aware where people at, what people want to get from it, to make sure I can feed those in as we go through this evening. So yeah, if there's something particularly you want to get from this evening, pop in the chat, and that'd be really, really helpful. So wait to make sure any comments come up, any particular things you want to get from this evening, any objective you want to get, just pop it in the chat, and I can make sure we kind of make sure we cover it. So nothing specific at the moment, but I'll keep tuning into that to see as we go through. So goals, are they good or are they bad? How do you set good goals if you want to have goals? I'll start the conversation by saying I think goals are useful, but you don't die by your goals. You need to hold them quite lightly. The reason I say goals are useful is I think without goals, a sense of direction, we can often find we kind of drift in life. And it's like, I'm going to use an analogy of maybe our time and our energy. Again, it's very easy to drift in our use of time and energy and money's energy, without a clear conscious awareness of what we want to use our time and energy and money from. We often, it just drifts. So for example, my wife and I, we budget our money. Now, when we first got married, I came from a place of fear around money. Although I didn't really need to, I was doing a very good job and had enough money. It wasn't as if I didn't have enough, but I still had some fear around money. And one of the ways that manifested was having really, really tight budgets. And bless her, my wife, and she put up with it. But this was got married kind of late 90s. And I created the most complex spreadsheet you've ever seen in your life. It's interesting, we use a money budgeting app now. Basically, the app we use now is my spreadsheet, but in app form. So I should have pursued it and maybe start to set up an app. But anyway, it was a really complex spreadsheet. It had all sorts of categories and budgets, even stuff like car maintenance, but having a budget for that, for future car maintenance, to make sure everything was covered. But it was from a place of fear, and bless her, every time she spent something, she'd fire up the computer. And back then, computers take a long time to boot up, open Excel and type it all in. It was just a real ball ache. And it was coming from a place of fear. So after about a year or so, she said, I'm not doing this anymore. We swung the other way and didn't do anything for some time. And I guess in some sense we didn't need to, but there was a sense of where's this money going? Are we really putting our money energy where we really want it to? It's very easy to keep going to cafes and stuff and studying that money's gone. And actually, what we really want to do is put it towards a holiday or something different. So having budgeting, having a structure helps us making sure we're consciously using our money. So it's not from a place of fear of not having enough. It's more kind of making sure we're consciously putting the money where we really want it, rather than unconsciously just kind of drifting and spending it and wonder where it's all gone. The same with time. How do we make decisions on managing our time, making sure we have the time to do the things we want to do? Energy is the same. Having a structure, I think, is really important. And many of you have heard me use this analogy before about a river. A river has flow, has energy, and energy is spontaneity, it's flow, it's it's just finds the path of least resistance. But it has a bank, has a structure, a river bank, and that's what allows the river to flow. Without the bank, there'd be no momentum. And the same with time and energy management. We need a structure. The structure helps us flow. And sometimes without structure, it just leaks. There's no sense of direction or momentum. And I think the same with life as a whole, having some kind of structure, some heading to work towards, some goals to work towards, or a vision to work towards, stops us drifting, stops us wondering where the years have gone and we haven't still haven't done the things we really want to be doing. So how do we stop drifting? Goals is one form. Having a sense of purpose is another. A purpose, how you know your sense of what you think you're here to do in the world. So for me, I have a sense of purpose to help people connect to their innate well-being and inner confidence, to create a life of purpose and inspiration, to be true to their heart and their soul. And kind of in my language, if you guys know the language, I say more inside out. That's my sense of purpose. So having a sense of purpose, also a sense ahead, a direction or vision, having a vision for your life. Like a company will have a purpose statement or a mission statement and a vision, and then maybe some goals. So the goals are slightly lower down from sitting below the overall vision and the purpose. So these things like having a purpose or vision for our life and goals help us to be conscious in our living and not to drift. But I said earlier, it's not about dying by the goals, and sometimes goals can be unhelpful. SMART goals, obviously, a very popular form of goal setting, often used in business. And one of the things I learned when I left university, started my kind of obviously kind of work life. They did teach you about SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. I think in our personal life, I think maybe in business as well, SMART goals maybe not so helpful because they keep us stuck in our habitual way of thinking. If they're realistic to our current thinking, which is often quite limited. Obviously, limiting beliefs can hold us back from really creating more of the life we want. So I think sometimes unrealistic goals can really help us think out the box, help us to really take steps out of our comfort zone and take steps to move forward in ways we wouldn't have thought of before. And we may not hit the unrealistic goal, but I think we'll go further than the realistic goal if we had unrealistic goals. If that makes sense. So I think unrealistic goals can be really helpful. But also about unrealistic goals, I think it's interesting to explore what it evokes within you, your sense of being it evokes within you. If you had an unrealistic goal, I don't know, maybe it was to start your new business and have a monthly turnover of £10,000 per month in 6 months. You know, and that's pretty completely unrealistic. But if you're to tune in to that, imagine it happening. Close your eyes and imagining having created £10,000 per month, whatever the unrealistic goal is, or want to run a marathon. Imagine running that marathon. You might think it's unrealistic, but imagine you doing it, feel it, embody it. What is the you it evokes? What does it evoke within you? And we'll come back to that sense of being, which is so important in creating our goals. Another thing about goals, to kind of a potential pitfall, is what I call toxic goals. So sometimes we have goals or aspirations, but we're not aware that it's toxic because unconsciously we're linking a sense of well-being towards it. I'll be okay if, or I'll be okay when. That turns a goal into a toxic goal, and it puts a lot of pressure on that process. My wife and I had 10 years of infertility, and I do quite a lot of supporting couples infertility, and often there is a lot of pressure around that because they think having a baby, I was the same, on our journey, I really thought having a baby would be a sign of happiness. We went through quite struggles, both my wife and I had difficult childhoods, and we had some challenges, and we first got married, and I thought having a baby was a sign of a new season in our life, a sign of God's blessing, and a sign of happiness. And I thought having a baby would make us happy. And when we realised all my life it'd be, I'll be okay when? I'll be okay when my mum's happy. I'll be okay when I got good exam results. I'll be okay when I got my degree is always the next thing. And having a baby was the next thing. So it turned that goal into a toxic goal. It puts pressure on the process. Um, so that's another thing to be aware of about toxic goals. And it's just a reminder of that nothing makes us feel anything. You can achieve the goal. There's nothing wrong wanting the goal. We think if we think we need it to be okay, then that puts the pressure on it, and we're unlikely to do our best because no one does our best under any amount of pressure. It's about recognizing, in one hand, we are okay, we're complete, we're born complete. As a baby, as the last time you looked at a baby, they thought they weren't complete. Our soul is complete as we come into the world. Yes, and we start contaminating our thinking, we learn things along the way, but our essence, our soul is complete underneath the noise of all our thoughts. On the other hand, it's having a goal, an aspiration, and that's cool. It's having both. But if we think we need this to get this, it puts pressure on this process, and it's having both that moves us forward in more ease and well-being. So that's what can make goals kind of toxic goals. So I was going to share my screen and draw a picture because we think we know what we want. And a lot of my kind of work is actually help people understand what they really want. Because we think we know what we want, but there's often a goal behind the goal. As I said before about having a baby, if I ask someone if you want to have a baby, what do you think having a baby will give you? We start to explore this sense of fulfillment or purpose or completeness. I was once on a retreat, a men's retreat, and a guy was on there, and his wife had just left him for someone else. He was just in pieces. His goal in life, he said his goal was to get his wife back. By the end of the weekend, he realized there's a goal behind the goal. What he really wanted was to be in his own power, to feel like he's in his own power. That's what he really wanted. And of course, from that space, he's probably more likely to get his wife back because there's less neediness. He's more empowered. And it enables him to hold that goal more lightly, to know he's okay, he's in his power for who he is, not because his wife reinforces or validates him. So there's always a goal behind the goal. And the goal behind the goal tends to be a psychological goal. The way I imagine this is actually on this men's weekend. I know it sounds very stereotypical, bunch of men chopping wood. They got us to chop wood, but it was a real metaphor for this idea of a goal behind a goal. When you chop large logs and you're not experienced in chopping wood, you tend to aim for the top of the log, but you need to aim for the bottom of the log. I guess it's the same in a lot of different sports. I imagine boxing, there's a follow through. Tennis, it's about the follow through. It's similar other aspects of sports. So we think we know what we want, but that's the top of the log. But what's the bottom of the log? And as I said earlier about feeling into having achieved your goal, especially if it's an unrealistic goal, feeling into what that give you. Who will you be if you create that? And perhaps it's a sense of freedom or playfulness or joy or security. There's these psychological goals behind the goal. And it's really tuning into that. What is that sense of you? And it's a place to come from, not a place to get to. And what I mean by that is what stops us feeling into and living from that space is our thinking, our insecure thinking. Because if we are true, if we are our true selves, our innate selves, like a toddler needs for nothing psychologically, needs for nothing. They just know they're complete. They don't question their worthiness. They don't try and prove themselves. They don't want people's validation. Psychologically, they're complete. And they do amazing things. They learn to walk and learn to talk and do all sorts of things. As adults, the only thing stopping us connecting to that place of completeness is the noise, the insecure, fearful thinking we've picked up along the way. If we could truly be connected to that space of completeness, we're going to create far more of what we want in our lives. We wouldn't hold back, we'd play full out, we'd shoot for the things we want and more like to get them. So if you can be aware of the goal behind the goal, that's the place to come from. And so the only thing stopping us being in that space is our insecure and fearful thinking. But it helps us identify, okay, what is the goal behind the goal? And maybe it is to be free, a sense of freedom. Maybe if you run the marathon or create that business, you feel into it, there's a sense of freedom or innate well-being or sense of power and creation, feel like a powerful creator or sense of belonging, doesn't matter what it is. And if you don't feel those things now, that's maybe a place to look. Okay, maybe I've got a limiting belief. Maybe there's a fear around here. Maybe I forgive myself or judge myself for not feeling powerful or feeling free or belonging. Looking at what the thinking is that stops you feeling into that place, living into that space more now along the way, along the journey. It's our state of being that really makes a difference. I'm just going to demonstrate this with the diagram. I'm going to share my screen. The technology is going to work. Just thinking about here. So this is how different levels of our psychology. And a question to ask is if there's a goal you really want to create or something you want to achieve, and maybe you've seen someone else run the marathon, it's easy for us to ask, how do they do that? What do they do to achieve that? But a better question to ask is, who are they being in order to achieve that? And there's different levels of our personality. So, and it is kind of hierarchical. I'll explain that. One is our environment. So our place of being, where we are, can shape how we feel, who we think we are, how we show up. An example, when we got together with my wife, we went back to my parents' house. She said, "Oh, it's amazing. We go back to your parents' house. You become like a teenager. It's like you regress and be a teenager." And there was something about my parents' environment growing up in that house and my mum, and I did regress. And her highlighting that was the beginning of me recognizing, oh, maybe there's some stuff I need to deal with around my childhood and my mum. But yeah, very much our environment can shape our sense of self. Then our behaviors, what we do and what we don't do. And there's capabilities. And then there's beliefs and values. And I'll give you an example how this plays out. If so, someone say in a work environment, any environment, there's someone doing something a particular way, and you want them to do it in a different way. You want to change the behavioral level. If they haven't got the capability to do it the new way, they're less likely to do that behavioral change. If they don't believe in the new way of doing it, see the value of doing it the new way, again, they're less likely to make that behavioral change. So the higher up the level you go, the pyramid you go, if you make the change at that higher level, it filters down much easier. And the top level is a sense of identity. Who do you say you are? Who do you say you are? And once you got clear on that, when you're living from that space, the behaviors and the capabilities become easier. It's interesting how we're good at the things we do. The more you do something, you get better at it. The more you do something, you get better at it. So our sense of identity, who we say we are, sense of being, defines so much of our life. But often we're trying to change a behavior without thinking about what the beliefs and the values are behind it, the stories, the values, the judgments behind it. And you could say there's an even top layer going the other way, which is purpose. That's our sense of identity coming out into the world, our expression of ourselves out into the world. So the sense of identity is really important. It's kind of, who do we say we are? Almost, it drives our behaviors more than we think. It drives our habits more than we think. And getting the habits and rituals in place we need to achieve our goals starting with a sense of identity. So yeah, goals are important, but also as a sense of identity, who we say we are, a sense of self, the being we bring to the goal, I think is the oil of change enables us to achieve that goal far more easy, more powerfully than thinking the goal is going to make it, bring us that sense of being. So the sense of being is a place to come from, not a place to get to. So it's identifying the goal, the top of the log, but then identifying what's the bottom of the log. What do you really want? What will that give you psychologically? What will that give you? And recognizing that's the sense of being to come from in order to create it. And I know that some forms of um, laws of attraction and manifestation talk about, to create what you want, you need to live as if you have it. So if you want the Ferrari, imagine you have the Ferrari and live from a place of owning a Ferrari. Just walk like you own a Ferrari and all that kind of stuff. And that's really hard work. It's like fake it till you make it. The way I see it is it's a good exploration to do, but then see what stops you living from that space innately, because the sense of worthiness, a sense of deserving, the sense of freedom and security, all the things we tend to want at the bottom of the log, is a place to come from. It is our innate sense of self, below the noise of our thinking. It's all there. But it's just identifying what the judgments of ourselves that stop us living from that space more and more. No one can live that space 100% of the time, but can live from that space more and more. So I want to move into now to, I just want to just pause and have if I change tack just to see the comments on people, what people want to create, how to identify what I want. Okay, personal versus money earning goals. Cool. Okay, we'll touch on that. Thoughts for this evening, links to manifesting. Oh, links to manifesting, they are staying realistic and positive. Okay, time to tune into a wiser version of myself and lift my vibration by focusing on a vision. Brilliant. Okay, this is great. Boundaries and being okay with putting them in place despite the discomfort this might cause others and managing expectation. Awesome. Thank you. I'm sure we're going to cover those. I'll make sure we have towards the end. So I just want to touch on the psychology of creating. So talk about goals and a sense of being. And I think this diagram, which I'm going to take you through, help maybe to bring a lot of this together as a framework. So I'll share my screen again. So this is the psychology of creating. Yeah. So we want to create something. We start where we are today, and we have a vision of what we want to create. So that's today. That's the vision. Now there's a gap between the two. And that gap can feel uncomfortable. That gap can create a sense of tension. And I'm going to come on to identifying the vision in a minute. And that tension doesn't feel good. We often think of creating something as being in flow, but actually, there's often a tension around that. And there's two ways of approaching that tension. Our ego wants to collapse that tension. Our ego is addicted to comfort. Our ego is driven by fear, and it's addicted to comfort. It'll do anything for us to feel comfortable. And it does that in a number of ways. One of the ways is it denies the vision. Who are you to have that? You couldn't possibly do that. That's too big. That's impossible. Da, da, da. All these stories that collapse the vision. Because it needs to collapse that tension. The parallelity between where we are today and the vision is uncomfortable. So we collapse one end, it collapses the tension. So the ego tries to deny the vision or stops us allowing to explore the vision. It doesn't want to get our hopes up or doesn't want us to fail. It stops us really exploring our vision. And I'll come on to how we can counteract that in a minute. Another way it does it is to deny the reality where we are today, collapse the other end, deny the reality where we are today, the truth of where we are today. Some people want to lose weight, don't want to accept their size today because it's too uncomfortable, it's too, yeah, too painful to consider that. People with money goals or fears around money are too scared to open their bank statements. And I've been there, you know, too scared to open my bank statements because I don't want to accept the reality of the situation at the time. Because I want to collapse the tension, collapse the tension. So we deny the reality where we are today. Another one, another strategy for the ego to collapse attention is wanting a clear plan to get from A to Z. So I know exactly how I'm going to get there. So I've got some confidence on I'm gonna create that vision and not fail because the idea of failing is too painful, too discomfort. Doesn't want the discomfort. It wants to feel comfortable, certain we're going to create it. So the ego wants to collapse that tension in a number of ways. But the thing is that tension is creative tension. And in nature, there's creative tension. Don't know if you remember your school biology, there is osmosis, when things move from one concentration to a low concentration to a membrane. That's a form of creative tension. It's restabilizing, but it's a tension, moving it, creating it. And that's part of, I don't know, the cell. I can't remember my biology, the biological process. Osmosis is a core part of the biological process for growing and even, you know, the, that organism, whatever it plants, it's part of its life. But it uses that tension to make that movement to to grow, to evolve, to create. So another approach to this creative tension is not from fear and ego, but it's from wisdom, which is love. Our wisdom is comfortable with not knowing. Our wisdom is that part of us that knows we're complete in this moment. And it has the vision, but it knows it's going to be okay whatever happens. It's comfortable with not knowing how we're going to get there. Our wisdom is a place of inspiration. And from that place, oops, one word, it's about making choices. It's about making choices that don't always feel comfortable, but that honor our heart and our soul. It's being aligned towards our truth. You know, so going for a run in the morning, like particularly yesterday when it's sideways rain and dark, it doesn't always feel good. But I'm out there. I don't regret it. When I come home, it does feel good. It honors my heart, my soul. There has to be a choice. It has to be a choice because I have a vision of what I want for my life, my health and well-being. And it's a choice along the way. So wisdom is comfortable with not knowing. Wisdom is comfortable with that tension as part of the process. And it's about making those choices along the way. And I can see in my life how often I've tried to collapse that tension. Collapse the tension by all sorts of ways, denying the vision or numbing, just going to look for a snack in the fridge rather than actually sitting down and reaching out to the person I really want to connect with. Or writing or posting the article on LinkedIn, so I'm scared of people's judgment. We collapse the tension rather than holding the pose. It's a bit like a yogic thing, hold the pose. I had a men's coach who was very much into somatic work, breath work as well, and Kundalini yoga. He was a Kundalini yoga teacher as well, and he brought that into his kind of men's work because he believed men need to learn to be more present and being aware of your breath, and it is a great way of being present. He also did it for us because he wanted us to get comfortable with discomfort. To get us to hold these poses, one was a Qigong pose, our knees are bent, our hands above our head, and we're holding this pose, you know, for sometimes 5, 10, even 15 minutes, and our knees are bent and they're starting to feel into it. And like any yogic thing, the more you relax into it, you're more capable than you think you are. You can hold it or bend into it far better than you can imagine the more you relax into it. But these poses, you get to a stage where your knees are shaking, your legs are shaking, and it's physically very difficult and painful. And he would always say, hold the pose. Well, actually, hold the fucking pose was he wasn't, you know, didn't mince his words. And it was trying to teach us to get comfortable with discomfort, because there's always discomfort in life, to get comfortable with it, to keep our hearts open into it, keep our hearts open in discomfort, in that tension, keep our hearts open. But there's always compassion in there. He'd always say, if you need to come out of the pose, come out of the pose, take a breath, then go back in with compassion and kindness. Because there's something about recognizing where we are today. I need to recognize that with compassion, with loving acceptance, accepting. So the ego wants to collapse the tension by denying where we are today. They don't accept the reality where we are today. But acceptance is the WD-40 of change. Acceptance always the cogs of that creative tension. Accepting where you are today with love and compassion doesn't mean giving up. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. Accepting is about accepting where you are today with love and compassion. That where you are today is a combination of the past based on past thinking. That can change. Our thoughts change. Where we are today is based on past thinking. Our past thinking about ourselves and the world. That can change. It's accepting where we are today with love and compassion. Doesn't mean we want to be there tomorrow. Doesn't mean we don't believe we'll never change. So it's having that loving acceptance for the reality where we are. On the other hand, holding the vision. Holding the vision. And the thing is about wisdom. The thing is about wisdom, it's love. It's love. It's actually our heart. It's our heart's desire. I was going to draw another picture. This is the way I see it. This is about, okay, how to identify your vision. For me, it's our heart. It's our heart's desire. And often we just shut our heart down. We don't keep it open. We spend so much time trying to protect our heart rather than opening our heart to what we really want in life. And another way of seeing the different levels of our kind of personalities, another way, another model that I quite like and find very useful is this thought, our thinking. The other is our soul, or your wisdom. And I think it's our heart. It really is our heart. And I do believe there's something deeper than beyond us, the energy of life, whatever you want to call it, God, life, the universe, the divine. I believe there's an energy behind life that's bigger and beyond us. And I think we're aligned to that. It's kind of God within us. I think we co-create our life with that energy. And when we're in kind of quiet mind and flow and ease, we can become more aligned to that energy. We are kind of more aligned. And when we're more aligned, we're powerful creators. But the thing is, we have a different thought, outside in thinking. You could argue that when you're aligned, our thinking is inside out. It's intuition. It's that wisdom coming through in ideas and creativity. So it's inside out thinking. Along to the side of it is outside in thinking, often a form of self-reliance. Often as a kid, we felt we couldn't rely on the world or trust the world. So it's down to us to make sure we're okay. We didn't feel safe to trust, the tribe. Maybe there's a bit of a teasing or something at school. We didn't feel safe, so we thought it's down to us. We felt alone. We felt things are down to us. We have to work out what we need to do to stay safe. We can't trust the world's got our back. My mum was very, because she loved me unconditionally, but she had her own kind of challenges of insecurity and anxiety and depression and all sorts of things from a very traumatic childhood. And so love felt very conditional. She was very angry a lot of time and high expectations. She was a teacher, and so love felt quite conditional. So I had to try and think to work out the rules of life. I couldn't trust there's a loving compassion energy of life has got my back. That was an alien concept to me because our expectations or our experience of life often comes from our experience of our parents. So I felt I couldn't trust life. I never know what response I'd get from my mum, and I felt lived in fear of judgment. And actually growing up in quite an Anglo-Catholic environment, talk about God of judgment a lot as well. So we learn this kind of self-reliance. It's down to me. I need to make sure I'm okay. I need to make sure I'm okay. We can't trust the world's got my back. So we create this kind of self-reliant thinking, which is outside-in thinking. Outside-in thinking that's misaligned to our heart, our soul, to the loving energy of life. But when we're aligned to our heart, that's our wisdom. That's our vision. That's what we want. Our heart's desires. And I think we're not used to asking ourselves, what's our heart's desires? I think as kids, we get told it's selfish to focus on what you want. And we get out of practice of tuning into our heart's desires. And I once heard a talk about finding your soul's purpose. And he said, just ask yourself in each moment, what is I want in this moment? What is I want in this moment? And it may be a cup of tea. Great, go and get a cup of tea. Then ask yourself, what is I want in this moment? What is I want in this moment? And I think we do get our practice of asking what we want. In my mid-30s, I did my own kind of psychological journey that led me to doing what I do now. That's really struck me. I was living the life I thought I should be living, getting the qualifications, getting the degree, doing this, getting the career with a good career path and a good pension. And I was living the life I thought I should be living to meet the expectations of others, society, education system, my mum. I had no idea what I really wanted. I always found decisions really hard, which university to go to, which subject to do. And I hated making those decisions because I didn't really know what I wanted. I really didn't know what I wanted. In my mid-30s, I realized that I was very busy in life, doing all sorts of things in life. But I realized a lot of it was out of duty or sort of thought I should. How much was it because I really wanted to do it? And it was a real realization to me. I stood back from a lot of responsibilities I'd taken on out of duty rather than my heart, what I wanted. And it was very interesting. Soon after that, a friend was doing a play and he asked me to be in this play. I've got no acting experience whatsoever. And he asked me to do this play and I said yes. I thought it would be quite fun. And my wife said, here you go. You're getting to another thing you can't say no to. And I said, actually, no, this was the first time I said yes because I really want to. So I remember quite fun, even though I'm not good at it. And follow your bliss became my mantra. I started doing things like playing tennis. I played a lot of tennis as a teenager. In my mid-30s, I started taking up again, just playing more tennis again. I can't remember why I stopped. Why did I stop? I was drifting. I was drifting rather than making conscious choices. When I started making conscious choices, I had stronger boundaries. I said no to some things. When the past I would have said yes, because I couldn't think of good reason to say no, so I better say yes. But it's actually no, being true to ourselves. In fact, it happened recently. I said yes to someone who wanted to meet up, and I was out of alignment. I couldn't find a good reason to say no, so I said yes. But as time went by, before we got to meet, I realized I was out of alignment. I didn't really want to meet them. It wasn't how I wanted to use my time. So I contacted them saying, I'm really sorry that it's actually a no, because I had to bring myself back into alignment. That's for me, is how we set our boundaries. Are we in integrity with ourselves? Are we in integrity with ourselves? Does it feel true to our heart and our soul? Are we honoring ourselves? Are we honoring ourselves? I think that helps set boundaries in life and honoring our heart moment to moment in the small things, whether it's wanting a cup of tea or not, is the same energy, the same direction that honors ourselves in the big stuff. What does it want to create in our life? What's the sense of purpose? So it's about honoring our heart, honoring yourself. Do you feel you're in integrity with yourself? And for me, it's a feeling. It's a feeling within. It's in my body. And often the fear, the thinking, I can't think of a way to say, no, maybe I should say yes. Maybe it would be a good thing. It's quite noise. It's noisy. It's jumpy. There's no peace to it. There's no peace to it. When it lands in my heart saying, I need to say no to that, that feels more peaceful. Although it felt edgy, I had to make a choice. I had to choose to do that. choose to be aligned to my soul, to contact him, to cancel it. I knew maybe might be upset with it, but I had to honor myself, make that choice. Didn't feel comfortable in some way, felt edgy, but it felt like the right thing. Definitely felt like the right thing. It brought me back into alignment of myself, back into my alignment. So I think our heart is our wisdom. Our heart is our wisdom. And yeah, and sometimes we're going to be out of alignment with self-aligned, habitual self-reliance thing is going to kick in. When we're aligned in a state of flow, a quiet mind, it's about honoring our heart, honoring our heart. Just going to pause there. Just going to stop sharing my screen and say any questions from what I've just thrown at you so far. I'm just going to check through some of what people wanted to create, their intent from this evening. Links to manifesting. Let's touch back on that. So yeah, let's not touch on that actually, because I mentioned earlier about, I think I sometimes struggle with the law of attraction and manifesting, because I think the bits, I wasn't an expert, having dived into it, the bits I heard about it, it felt a lot about thinking what you want into reality. And I guess I rebelled against that, because part of me think about taking responsibility, taking action. It felt like just, it felt disempowering in some way, that put all the energy into this, all the power into this metaphysical energy of life. I'm going to backtrack. Okay, here's another model. There's three, I think there can be three approaches to life. One is putting all the power into the goal, whether it's the promotion, the new business, and we think it becomes a toxic goal. That puts all the power into the physical world. I'm okay if I create this thing in the physical world, and I must muscle through to create it, get the promotion, get the wherever it is, the more money or business or the relationship, whatever it is. But that puts all the power into the physical world. Another way is, okay, using manifestation to create this thing. For me, that just puts all the power into this metaphysical energy of life. And I think the third way is realizing we're part of that energy of life, and in that kind of pyramid, we're aligned to it. And when we're fully present and complete, that's our connection to God, life, the energy, and we co-create with it. We co-create with it. And it's about making choice and action. But there was someone, I can't remember his name, famous person, who I read his book about creating things what you want in your life, and he was into manifestation, and his name will come back at some point. But he was saying about feeling into having it, feeling into how it feels to have it and live from that space. And I kind of got that. I know another guy talks about visualization. He talks about feelingsization. Rather than visualize what you want, feel it. He calls it feelingsization. Spend some time feeling in your body, embody it. How would it feel? And when I started to explore that and realizing, yeah, feel into that, then make the choice, take the actions, make the choices from that space. I can see how it aligns to some teachers around kind of manifestation. And the way I see it is having that outrageous goal, feel into the being. What's that being that evokes within you? Yeah, feel into it. Allow yourself to give yourself permission to realize that's who you are. I am free. I am joy, whatever it may be. And if there's some resistance to that, and there will be, that's the vision. There'll be resistance with the truth of where you are now. Maybe you don't truly believe it. Come back to that part of you, the truth of where you are. Connect to that part of loving acceptance. I forgive myself for judging myself as not being free. Or just imagine being with that part of you. Often I imagine it's a younger me. Just be with it. Hold its hand. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge that part of you. And then come back to the vision. You can maybe relax into the vision more easily. So it could be visualizing it, feeling into it, but at the same time acknowledging where you're at. I think sometimes when I read about law of attraction, it's all about focusing what you want rather than some loving acceptance of where you're at. Because if you try and reject that or don't acknowledge it, that's the thing that can often stop us being more who we want to be and bringing more what we want into the world. So I'm hoping that touches on some of the links between what I'm saying and manifesting. But if there's any other questions and stuff, yeah, pop it in. Um, Another question, how would you document or plan the vision? Great question. Um, I like to write them down, my sense of vision, what I was going to create. And I might have half a dozen goals for the year. It's like a goal for the year, aspiration for the year. I'm talking about goals here. There's a sense of vision as well. I have a vision for my kind of business. Um, I have different forms of vision. Vision for my business. My vision for my business is for the world to be inside out. So the babies come, inside out babies get born into an inside out world, so they stay inside out. Very grand vision. I think that's what a vision is. A vision is something beyond what we kind of really achieve, but it evokes an emotion. It feels exciting, and that's what I'm shooting towards, trying to change the world one person at a time. That's kind of my kind of business vision. Then personally, I have a vision about what I create. Every now and then, I just write down a couple of paragraphs I share with my wife. This is the vision I love to create for our lives, our relationship, how we communicate together, how we be together, what we create together. Doesn't mean necessarily we're necessarily working together, but in essence, what we're creating. And just a taste of that, like a couple of paragraphs, what it might feel like to be in our life in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. Give me a sense of vision. What am I heading towards? Then come back to goals. Yeah, for the goals for maybe the year, some shooting towards what am I creating? I might have half a dozen of these goals, but how I document it quite interesting. It's using the word choice. I choose. I choose the end result of, and whatever the vision is, I choose the end result of. And that's how I document my kind of goals. And they are quite kind of outrageous goals, as they were. To evoke that, what does that evoke within me? What is it I really want behind that if I'm not consciously aware of it? And that's what I hold each day. It's going to come, it's feeling into the vision. Where am I today with it? Sometimes feeling in the vision, what comes to mind a lot for me is feeling into the vision. It feels like being on top of a mountain. That's often a metaphor, an image that comes to mind. Top of a mountain, it feels like I'm free and there's joy, there's that kind of feeling. Where am I right now as I feel into that goal right now? Where am I feeling today? It feels like someone this rock face and it's vertical and it's slippery and I'm just kind of hanging on. I don't believe I can actually make it. Or they can't see how to do it. There's an overhang. Not that I'm using a climb analogy, I'm not a climber at all. But imagine an overhang and I can't see the way to the top and I just feel stuck. That's what I feel today about that kind of goal. But it's just acknowledging it, just recognizing that part of me, the truth of where I am, holding both parts of the creative tension. And then I go back to feeling into creating it, being into that, feeling into it. And it links to my kind of a manifesto of me or my declarations. This is who I am. It's linked to I am freedom. I am loving presence. All these things, the state of being that's behind my goals, I feel into this is who I am. This is who I am today. So I also have a document of being, as well as my goal. I have a document of being that I can read each day or write and just feel into it. It's very much linked to the goals. There can be other things in there as well. I hope that's covered on how do you document the plan or vision. Um, if there's other questions on that, yeah, let me know. So just going to check into other things from this evening you wanted to cover. Time to tune into a wiser version of myself and lift my vibration by focusing on a vision. And I hope we touched on that. Or is there any questions, any thoughts on that? I think I've missed or questions. Yeah, pop in the chat. I'd love to make sure I cover it. Layers and boundaries. Yeah, hopefully I've covered that about boundaries, but yeah, let me know if anything else. Discomfort this might cause to others. Okay, yeah, bearing a boundary. So discomfort that might cause if you put a boundary and you're honoring yourself, that might put discomfort into someone else. And managing expectation, I think the two are the same thing. That realizing. So this friend I said no, who was more kind of associate, wasn't really a friend. He wasn't happy with it. He wasn't happy with it. So it did create him some discomfort in him. But I need to recognize that's his thinking. I can't control how he feels. I can care. He feels upset or disappointed. But I realize I didn't cause that. I didn't cause his upset or disappointment. It's his thinking has created that. his expectation on me, his thinking has created it. We live 100% in a thought created reality, 100% of the time. Doesn't mean we don't care, it just means we're not responsible. And I just think if everyone's living true to their heart, living in integrity with themselves, I think it'd be an amazing world. I think it'd be an amazing world. But sometimes people get upset. But I also think when we live true to our heart and soul, it's the best thing for us and the best thing for others. They may not know it or see it in the moment, but they'll probably see it at some point in the future. For example, if someone's in a relationship, they really know this is not the right relationship for me. I need to get out of this. For whatever reason, the other person doesn't want to end the relationship. They much love that person, and when the person feels that they need to end the relationship, does that, they may break the other person's heart. But if they're honoring their soul, it's got to be the right thing for the other person, even though it's caused great, heartache. Because if some person think that's not the right relationship, it's not going to be a good relationship. And the longer it goes on, it's just going to get worse. And so the person may be a bit of heartbreak. But I think also believes there's a better person out there for them, not better, it's not a more right person out for them, because clearly those people weren't right for each other. And there'll be someone else they meet, hopefully, that will be more right for them. So I do believe the more we are living integrity, yes, we may brush up against other people's expectations and their thinking, but we can't be responsible for that. We can't. I mean, I tried that for many, many years of my life, living the life of other people's expectations. In my corporate job, I met with all sorts of people in different layers of the organization, from kind of directors down to shop floor people. I interacted with all of them, and I enjoyed that. And a colleague said, "You said you're amazing. You get on with everyone. Doesn't matter who you speak to, you get on with everyone." Because a big organization, different departments had different cultures. The finance team or the marketing and the engineering team and the IT team, subcultures. And I had an engineering background. I get on the engineers really well. I can speak their language, their way of thinking, but also I can get on a finance person. And this guy said, "You're like a chameleon. Whoever you're in front of, you mold to them. They get on with them. They like you." He was saying it as like a compliment. But as he said it, I said, "Yeah, but who am I? Who's the real me?" That's what struck me at the time. It's like, yeah, who am I then? And it was another reinforcement. I was living my life to other people's expectations. There was no being me. Yes, I know there's a sense of you can get on with people and you listen and connect to them. You can do that with anyone. I truly believe that. But back then, I was doing it to please people. I was a yes person. I never challenged people. I was avoiding conflict. And towards the end of my career, when I could see all that, and I became more myself, yeah, I created a bit more, not conflict, but I challenged people. I challenged my boss. I fought more for what I believed was the right thing, and actually made my job more fulfilling because they're making a bigger impact. So there's a bit of a kind of, yeah, I hope that covers kind of the boundaries and the expectation. Again, any follow-up questions, do throw them in. So I was going to pause it, make sure there's any other questions, comments, do chuck them in the chat before we finish. I want to honor people's time, make sure we do finish on time. But so this is why people may be doing that. I'm just going to talk about my plan. I mentioned about community. My vision is, this is a vision. I don't know how I'm going to get there. It's just one step. I was to take the idea of doing today was one step. Having a sense of community. And in my mind, one thing is doing events like this, where clients can come and we can spend time together, continue to learn and grow together. I have a vision almost about having an app where clients can be part of, forever. It's free access for my clients forever, where I put a lot of the resources that I share with a lot of you and other resources in there in a more usable, searchable way. So there's a kind of library, like a library of audios that I've created that you can utilize and search and tap into, as well as maybe a place where you can interact with each other if you want, interact with me. That's an idea I've had. How I actually do that and when I do that, I don't know, but I'm setting that kind of vision. And yeah, and one thing I'll do is more events of this. And one thing I'll do is maybe do a group journey. If you want to do a group journey, I'm starting a group coaching program starting in mid-January. So I don't want to do a sales pitch here. I don't do these webinars to sell something. I want to serve you this evening. So if that any interest in that, do let me know. Send a private chat to me. You know, when the chat it says to, you can change everyone just to me. Just say me if you're interested. I can follow up and give you some details. I'm going to do a group coaching program the first quarter of next year to again embed some of these things to really help you create more of what you want next year. So doing some more kind of group activities and coaching and having resources to continue relating and journeying together. That's my vision anyway for one aspect of my work. And I hope that kind of serves you and is useful to you. So, oh, hi Lucy, you put the camera on. So if you want to put the camera on and say goodbye, you can do that. Have you got any question, Lucy? You want to say? No, cool. It's lovely to see you. So I'm going to wrap in a minute. So any last minute questions, do type them, or you can open your mic and speak it if you want. Otherwise, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for, it was a bit of an experiment diving in and doing today. And I hope it's been useful to you. So hi, Rosie. Lovely to see you. And so thank you for being here. And you know I love you all, and you know I am. Any other questions, just reach out and we'll speak very soon. Okay, take care. Thank you, see. Loving you.